Alrighty, well, good morning and welcome back to another episode of The Green Room. Today I have a really special guest from the Plymouth Police Department, Andy Moretti. So go ahead, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. This is going to be another really great episode. We're going to dive really deep into the security industry and its impact on law enforcement and success stories with security technology, and just really go over a lot of different things that we see with our industry that helps our local police departments, state police, and anybody in the law enforcement industry. So go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Harry. So I am a police officer in Plymouth Township. Been there 23 years, going on my 23rd year here. I started out as a patrolman. Then I got transferred into a accident investigation unit. Did that for about 4 or 5 years. Then I was transferred into a criminal investigation unit within that same police department in Plymouth. And have been doing criminal investigations since 2010. So going on my 15th year here of doing that.
That is so cool. I mean, I know we've worked together on, pulling video and whatnot and seeing so many things. And, it's really great that, our companies get to help out with that. And that's another thing I love to do. But, you've had so many years in service now.
Yeah, and that prior to that, I spent time in the public safety sector as well, doing emergency medicine, EMS, several local organizations in Montgomery County. I worked full-time and part-time, both in Plymouth, Norristown at Montgomery Hospital, Lower Merion at Narberth Ambulance. So I kind of worked in some different areas. I grew up in East Norriton Township, but I always liked that East Norriton, Plymouth, West Norriton suburb area.
Yep. All right in this
right
core area.
Yeah, the core area here.
So we've been in Plymouth meeting, and I lived in Bluebell my whole life, so it was always, really close. And went over there. You went to West Norriton. That's where a lot of our stuff is. But it's great. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun, and moving now on to how does the security impact the security industry impact on law enforcement? How have you seen that change over the years from really starting to now what we have now with all the artificial intelligence and analytics, and how has that changed for you and changed your job?
So when I started 23 years ago, a lot of companies and businesses were still VHS tapes for security cameras. They hadn't even gotten to DVDs or thumb drives, systems. So a lot of that started as VHS tapes. The hardwire, call it the old hardwire alarm systems, are still in effect, in a lot of places. Some of those have gone wireless, but some are still out there where companies come in and put in actual hardwired systems in businesses. But I would say just the influx of everything is on video today. So all of your stores have video. Now, a lot of residential people, because it's so easy to set up Ring doorbells and wireless cameras and Blink cameras and Wise cameras. That amount of video has probably gone from, where we would get 1 in 10 years ago to 10 out of 10. I mean, just a exorbitant amount of video
that we're pulling in now. I mean, you said, you were taking back your old VHS tape, right, and you'd hope that had caught it, and it wasn't like you had 100 cameras.
No.
And the cost was so exuberant. It was if you had one camera, it was really good.
Right.
If you had two, it was even better. And then now it's so not cheap, but it's cost effective to just even buy cameras on Amazon and put them in just for some level of security.
Right.
Even though it's not the best, at least it's something.
It's something, right? And that's what the industry has really kind of pushed that. Law enforcement, emergency services has tried to keep up with it, but it's overwhelming. I mean, there's video literally everywhere now.
Mm-hmm. Dash cams.
Right.
Even that helicopter that crashed.
Yeah, emergency vehicles have dash cameras on them. Even a lot of people, even some you know, civilian people have these dash cameras on their cars.
Yeah.
The units are small, they're easy to put in. Commercial vehicles have them. Usually the companies install those, and a lot of commercial vehicles, and they get discounts from insurance companies, but some of that's the driving factor. But even some of it's just for the safety of the drivers and, protection for the company.
Yep.
But over the years, I've seen that changeover from, the old VHS video systems to digital, now higher quality, smaller cameras, more, even cars have cameras. A lot of cars have, factory installed cameras in them all the way around cars. Now, I think Tesla is the only one that records them all the way around the cars.
Yeah, they do record. I forget what it used to be called. I had a Tesla, and it was perimeter something.
Yeah.
It used to have a red light on the screen that says you're being watched. I think a lot of new GM cars have them.
Right.
But like they even caught like that helicopter crashing in Philadelphia, that medical helicopter, and you see it. Like the first video that was out was a dash cam.
It was a dash cam.
It wasn't even a fixed camera, and you're like, that's how many eyes are around that you don't even know exist.
Yep.
Every accident, every incident, everything is captured on video, and you don't know where it comes from. It's just
a lot of times it's hard to tell if it's a mobile camera or a fixed camera. It's getting harder.
even an iPhone.
Right.
As soon as something happens, everybody's
People pull their phones out.
People got the phones out. So, it's just there's so many eyes.
Right.
And even in yours, it's body cameras, it's dash cameras, it's vehicle cameras. And that's a huge thing that I don't think a lot of people know. It's like how many eyes are actually out there.
Right.
Before it was, 20 years ago, it was not many. 30 years ago, you could pretty much get away with 80% of things because you couldn't see it.
Couldn't see it.
And how could you prove it?
Right.
And now today, it's like, yep,
Oh,
and even
now
us.
You can read wording on shirts that people are wearing. I mean, that's how crystal clear the videos are.
And license plates. Now pulling plates, and now we look at, the issue of stolen plates.
Right.
And different things of that nature where, the plate came back stolen, we read it, it doesn't give us any information, but we did catch it. We caught
Correct.
the vehicle.
Yep.
And those are really big things that I don't think a lot of our customers are really taking advantage of with putting in license plate readers, putting in vehicle recognition cameras that can say, we're looking for a red car. Did any red car pass or blue car or even make?
Right.
I know that like with our new Hanwha systems that we've been really trying, I can go right into the VMS now and say a red Bentley passed.
Right.
Look for red Bentleys.
Right. And then it'll
it
give
can,
you all the red Bentleys.
Yep, and it can physically pull that. And I'm like, before, 10 years ago, we'd be searching for hours, if not days of footage to find that.
And then when
like,
you do find it, sometimes it was just a blurry image of a car whipping by.
Yep.
The cameras now for those systems are very crystal clear. You can almost read, around the license plates what the dealership is, where the car was purchased.
Yep.
Sometimes.
Before, I remember years ago when we had the, what was it, a van incident. There was a incident of something at one of the car dealers that we service. And I remember it was, me, you, 3 other officers were all standing around this TV. Like, what does it say?
Yeah.
Can we take guesses?
What's
What's the name?
What's the logo that's on the side of the van?
What have we seen like this before? And I'm like, today we go right on. There's the logo.
Right.
Like there's no guesswork. There's just that's the eyes, and they're getting better and better, and just the megapixels are increasing from what was it 480p, and now we're up to 4K.
Yeah.
And they're crystal clear, and you're like, you can't get away with a single thing. And we are in part of, making that happen, which I love because you should be able to see everything. And, if a crime's committed, you should be able to solve it.
Yeah.
But I think the LPR and that vehicle recognition, facial recognition, and now that the stores are using it where they're actually tagging the faces in theft.
Correct.
And then as soon as they walk back in or walk into any location, that's tracked.
It's notifying the loss prevention that, hey, somebody that was here that may have, done an incident prior, and it alerts them to somebody coming in.
Yep, it's miraculous.
Yeah.
Before it was you never knew it. Now today, and you see the companies like Walmart and Target, and everybody's implementing this solution because it costs so much money in loss prevention.
Well, and I think some of it is they lose so much money in products. So if you invest in technology to reduce that theft, it's kind of an offset. And in the hopes is over time, instead of losing, $1 million a year, if they have to invest $500,000 and they save, let's say, 2 or 3 years worth because of that technology, well, they've just saved themselves, $3 million, but it cost them $500,000.
Yep.
So in reality, they saved $2.5 million.
They have to physically look at that cost.
Yep.
And, like even the car dealerships that we've been doing, I mean, you can go out one night and how many cars have been stolen?
Right.
And we saw it with another one of our customers. It was 6 in one night. And you're like, I don't know how it happens. It just, they come in, they
Just come and take them.
They come and take them, and then they're weapons almost.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they go? How many got crashed? How many are still around us? And you just don't know. And you're like, because you couldn't physically see.
Right.
And since, we're securing these places, we saw where they came in, how they came in, how they got out, where they drove through, in a place of we would have never, if we wouldn't have had cameras, never have known.
And some of the systems also have real-time detection, so they alert when somebody's on that property.
Yep.
Which gives now a more appropriate response to, an incident where, as if it was just, oh, we got a gate alarm again, versus we have a motion alarm on a camera and we're watching people, those systems are, then gives, the police that are responding hey, we got more people here, to deal with.
And not to mention the false alarms.
Correct.
And the security guards that could be on the premises, because security guards are not, they're not paid to fight.
No.
That's not that's not their job. And you're looking at now, there could be 6 people, they're driving the other direction. Right. It's not worth a life to go, if they're unarmed or they're not ready to handle a situation like that, right. That's an issue. And we've actually been proposing solutions now for, it's called the Sunflower drone.
Okay.
And what it is it can secure up to a 10-acre facility.
Mm-hmm.
It lives in a hive on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
It patrols 4 times an hour, 24 hours a day. So it goes around, and it actually ties in with the monitoring center. Mm-hmm. So we can actually have a physical 2-way conversation with the criminal as at the location that the event's happening.
Through the drone.
And we can actually give the exact correspondence to the local police department, exactly where they are, and we can follow the assailant around the facility so that they know what they're getting into, the video's there, and they can physically see it. And I think that that is a really incredible solution because we're not putting any lives in danger. Right. We're getting very close. Mm-hmm. We're able to see a lot. And we're able to get them exactly where it is. Because if we have 100 cameras on a building, well, the officer's not going to know camera 100 is where we saw them. They're not going to know where that is. But if you have this where you actually have the coordinates, now it narrows it down. It's like, that's where we have to go. And I think it's a really cool thing that people should be adding. Right. Big locations, malls, car dealerships, hospitals. It's a great layer of security that.
Yeah, and I think that's the next evolution is the aerial drones and even some of the ground drones, these drone dogs that they have that, basically do the same thing, go out and do a ground patrol. Mm-hmm. And if they come across something, they activate and they can converse with the person. Now, again, a ground drone, somebody could kick it, somebody could do something to it.
Yeah.
Probably less damage to an aerial drone because the person may not be prepared to take down an aerial drone when they're doing something. But, that seems to be the evolution as it's evolving, getting to those, as they make those drones better and more robust and, can fly longer.
Yep.
They can do those, 45-minute patrols of, a property. So
it's just like Marty in the supermarket. You know Marty?
Yeah.
Yeah. Marty's really irritating. Yeah. Right. Now, if I saw that, you want to kick it because it gets in your way. Right. When it can't, like you're like, okay, I'll go this, and then it turns,
and it moves,
and then you're like, okay, and you're like, yeah, you could really take Marty out. Right. Every time I get involved with Marty, it's like. Right. We can't, Marty, it's too much, Marty. Can we take a rain check today? But if you have something in the air, it's not in your way.
No.
I mean, if you saw that flying around a car dealership, and we had, one of our last guests, Jared, and he's like, I would feel so safe with that
Right.
because I know that if the dealership cares that much about security,
Mm-hmm.
that means they're securing my information. They're actually doing a 100%,
Right.
field of security, which is so important when you're giving out your personal information or anything
Yeah.
that happens in a car dealership.
Right.
So I think that's a really neat feature that I hope that we get to see. It'll probably
Yeah,
be.
it'll be after my time probably, but as this evolves, it'll be interesting to see in the next 10 years where it goes.
Yeah.
Just because those devices are more affordable. Again, right now is a big price tag, but it's like anything new technology wise. As more of it gets out there, prices will start to come level out to an affordable level. I don't know if I will see in my lifetime, people having them at their houses. I doubt.
Yeah, that was expensive.
Yeah, that would be a little bit pricey but if it got to a point in, maybe 20, 30 years from now where it costs you $20 a month to have a drone at your house that, does, 4 times a night a patrol of your property, if you live on a 10-acre farm, that's great.
Yeah.
And it may not just be used for those, when we talk about, crime and things like that occurring, it may be used on a farm for other things, predators at night, like, foxes and coyotes and things like that get on farms, or animals that do destruction, where the drone can be kind of less intrusive instead of having to, well, we've got to kill this predator that's killing all our chickens. Well, let's send a drone up, and then
Yep.
when a drone gets near it, it lights it up and scares it away. That's
Yeah.
a little less violent, we'll call it.
And maybe mapping purposes of where,
Right.
growth is and whatnot.
Mapping
And
everything, the topography of the land that the farmer's going to use.
And pricing wise, so right now we sit at about between 68,000 and 72,000 a year. And that's a really big number that we show to our customers, but I say to them, okay, how much does your night security guard cost?
Right.
How much PTO is there? How much health care is there? Is there benefits? And then they're like, well, it's not really that expensive. And then it also patrols. I mean, if you do 4 times 24, it's 48. That's, I can't do math. What's that, 96?
96
So that's 96 patrols a day.
a day.
And you were getting 10?
Right.
So now we're multiplying that by 9, and we have just a unit that's just
Right.
patrolling. And that, I think, is incredible, because how much theft happens that you don't see? And what if the general manager's in there and he wants to know that all the cars are parked in the right line?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a big dealer with 1,000 cars,
Right.
They would have to take golf carts or find something. He could just go up and say, is that in spot 96?
Right.
Click
Or
a button.
When did that car leave that spot?
When did that car leave?
It saves a lot of time.
There's so much time, there's so much efficiency, and they don't think like that. They think it's a dollar value, but when you think of the dollar and your efficiency levels, if your efficiency can be higher than your dollar,
Right.
that means you're saving money, and that means you're saving manpower.
Right.
Because how long would it take a guy to go walk out? There's 1,000 cars, that's 25 minutes.
Yeah, and it may even take more than just one, because you may have the one guy that's out there looking in a lot, and then you got another guy working on, well, did we sell that car? So now that guy's looking up this, and maybe another person over here is looking up, doing work on it as well. So you're burning time when they could be doing something else.
Yep.
With their time productive.
And it's just like that big security thing. So are there any, like when you look at, a lot of your things that you've solved over the years, are there a lot of success stories when using the security technology that we have?
So I think when we talk about success in the realm of law enforcement, the use of technology it's huge. It's in almost every investigation that we do, whether it's just plain old video surveillance cameras, or if it's a video from someone's phone, or it's a email that got the person may have gotten duped and scammed through email phishing scams, everything that almost every investigation we do, with the exception of, and I wouldn't even say every investigation pretty much has video tied to it, some way, shape, or form, because even if it's a disturbance, sometimes just disturbances on a street, there could be video, street camera video. Maybe somebody has Ring camera. So even where you don't think there's video, there could be video.
Yep.
It's those times when you think, oh, there's a ton of video in that area, and all of a sudden you have nothing for some reason. But that's almost every investigation has a turn towards technology, towards surveillance cameras, technology. Phones are probably the biggest thing because everybody has a phone.
And how much information is
all
on
the
the phone.
information that's on phones is crazy.
Yep. It's your supercomputer in your pocket.
It is. It's actually, I call it the person's pocket personality, because it is your personality in a device that lives with you 24/7.
All times.
Mm-hmm.
And it just captures everything. And, you look at the Ring neighborhood, they have
Right.
that. And, everybody bought a Ring. Whether they're secure or not,
Yep.
everybody bought it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that neighborhood and all those different, what's the other, next door?
Next door, yeah. Next door is another one. That's like I don't know if that's tied to cameras. Like
No, they
I think
post in
that's
it.
that's like a posting, like a social media type
Yeah.
for specific neighborhoods.
Yeah, I tried it in mine, and I don't want to hear who left their trash can out 3 days past that. I'm sorry, but the Ring, I mean, if something goes off, I think it's a great way of community. I also think it's a little
Right.
not secure, and we're not big Ring fans as it is, but it is something that was the mass population was able to
Obtain it and hook it up easily.
Yep.
Again, I agree with there are devices that, again, when you talk about your security of your home, just throwing any old device on your Wi-Fi in your house, think about it. If it doesn't have, if it has an opening somewhere, it's going to make you vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's in your home, your business, wherever. You really have to kind of weigh out what you're trying to accomplish.
And how secure is your network? And that's
Right.
one thing, at this company that we really try and, every security system we put in, we want to provide a network in front of that.
Right.
We want to make sure that we have the correct procedures in place, the intrusion prevention settings, intrusion detection settings,
Right.
to not only, just keep you protected, but let you know that there's an active threat.
Right.
Because your Comcast or Verizon modem or whoever you have out there is not going to let you know that.
Right.
And your life is online. Your cameras are online, your thermostats are online, your locks, your printers, your doors.
Right.
I mean, you don't realize that when you have that much on a
Right.
network, I mean, how vulnerable are you?
Right.
And, purchasing lower quality devices that do have open APIs or open ends or needed a port forwarded, which, I mean, I know that we don't do anymore
Right.
because years ago you needed to. Today everything's a cloud and a point to
A lot of
point.
things are cloud-based or cloud-pointed. Yeah, I am a proponent, as we have spoken before, about layers of security,
Yep.
because it's just like your house. You have your front door, then you have your locks, then you have your chain lock. You have to also think that same way with computer security. You have to have that base layer, that base defense that's going to, kind of stop the big threats, but then you also have to hone in the rest of it. And the layers of security that go through, whether it's encryption or certificates or validations, two-factor authentications, things like that.
It's
It's a pain. It really is, but it keeps everything safe and secure.
There's a major layer of importance, and I know we talked about it last week on our other podcast with Qualsys, and just going over now how you look at other alarm systems and you look at theirs, and their sensors are encrypted.
Right.
End-to-end, full 900 megahertz spectrum encryption. And that's something that nobody else is really offering. And how easy is it to defeat an alarm system?
Yeah.
Especially a wireless one now. That one offers jam detection and all those different features, and that's how a lot of criminals work.
Right.
They can buy a signal jammer off of Amazon, and as soon as you flood that, that's why
Right.
we really believe in local recording,
Mhm.
and not having that cloud backup or that cloud, because the
Right.
cloud will let you down if there is an intruder ready to break in and has that device. That will let you down.
It's going to let you down. Even if you have a backup of cellular, it's going to be affected.
Everything will be effective when a signal jammer is in place.
Yep.
And if you're using wireless cameras, or pretty much offline at that point, and you're now looking at, did we locally get it?
Right.
And that is, ultimately come back to the local part of this.
Right.
And that's why we want it. That's why we strive for it. But security is paramount. And I
Right.
think we've said that on almost every one. And just protect your network.
Yep.
If you don't know how vulnerable you are, you bring phones in, people are buying the little Wise cameras and everything else. And, anything that I think costs $25 that is a video device, it's not possible to be $25 and not be doing something making you vulnerable.
Right.
That's more concerning to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it's watching your house.
Right. And if you want to rely on that, like that's not a real reliable piece of equipment. Like again, even personally, I prefer the recording device with hardwired cameras. That's just if anybody, people have asked me over the years, hey, should I go buy this? Should I go buy that? These wireless cameras. I said, you know what? The wireless cameras are great for a chicken coop, but they're not great for, your house. Like your house, and you want to make sure you get that information or you get that recording because, if something does happen, you're going to want that recording. Well, the only guarantee is to have it, is to have a wired system. So again, I've always recommended people, they still say to me, well, you got to run the wires. Well, you got to run the wires.
Yeah.
You could use wireless cameras. They're not really that reliable.
And you've designed these systems too. You've designed surveillance systems. You've designed these. And looking at that, you physically understand not only from the perspective of having to investigate the crime,
Right.
but having to build it and understand it. And that, I think, is a really, it's a double-edged sword of knowing it, and people don't know that,
Right.
which is something that we really have to push.
Right.
Because they are not secure. Hey, it blinks, like you said, great in a chicken coop. You want to watch a little chickens? It's wireless, it's battery, it's easy. But why would we protect our whole house?
Why are we going to protect everything around our house with that? It's not exactly again, sometimes there's time constraints where, hey, I got to get something up today. Okay, let's use a wireless solution temporarily, but let's get a wired solution so that this stuff doesn't get missed.
Yeah. Even if you have to call in a local electrician or another security company or whatever you have to do to really get that,
Right.
it's not really earth-shattering to run,
Right.
unless your house is 100 years old or there's some issue. But it should always be the paramount point of let's make sure it's wired.
Yep.
It also is great for power outages. You have everything on a battery backup.
Right.
It can be responsive enough, and your system's still running. That does happen, that they do cut the power and want to intrude. So always try and be the best prepared you can when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And another thing that we've really started pushing is for our businesses and our business customers is our active shooting detection systems. And I wanted to get your take on what are the biggest challenges that law enforcement faces today when there is an active shooter situation, if there is one, in your opinion.
I think the biggest challenge today with that is when the incident occurs, getting the information alerted to the authority right away. Sometimes, again, in this day and age with phones and the desensitization of people, sometimes people go, well, somebody else will call. I don't need to call about that. I'm sure somebody else has called. Again, the proper notification right away, and then allow the authorities to come in, police to come in, secure the area, the EMS and the fire to respond in and handle the injuries is, that's the appropriate level. Again, the detection systems are great because they give a heads up right out of the gate. Hey, something might be going on, but they can't definitively say 100%. Oh, this is an absolute. That's where that eyewitness has to make that phone call. From within the business or the incident that's occurring, or somebody hears something outside. At least call.
Yep.
Don't let it go uncalled.
And with this system that we've, really been pushing from shooter detection systems is that visual verification feature.
Right.
Where now we have a sensor, we pair it with the security system.
With the security.
And as soon as that shot goes off, recognized in under a second, police can be dispatched within 5 seconds.
Right.
Which is massive when it comes to the response times of 60 seconds to 3 minutes, which is what it usually is because you have that fight or flight. Mm-hmm. Did it really happen? Where did it happen? Right. And now with a system like this where it happened in the northeast corner of the second floor, we have a picture of the shooter, we've identified them, the police have it, the monitoring station has it, every person has it, and now we know who's coming out.
Right.
We know they can't blend in, which has been problems in the past.
Right.
And we're seeing it instead of, you may have a building filled with 1,000 people.
Right. Getting those eyes inside is a good tool.
Yeah.
Because again, without that, the officers that are responding, or the personnel that's responding, they're blind going in, and that's not a ideal situation. Although it's we have to go in because there's active shooting going on. But if you have the eyes inside already, that's good knowing. Okay, well, we can get to a certain point before we know we're going to encounter the threat.
And we believe pairing this, like even if you don't have this, have a solution that can help find it, whether it's Zero Eyes
Right.
or, what's the other one? I think it's Envision or one of the other ones where they weapons detection. Even the detection of it, this is this is a dormant sensor.
Right.
It lives there, and it's really important. It's like a fire system that gets people out of a building, and this is, can guide people in the direct way away from a shooting
But
event.
sometimes the fire alarms go off for
Yeah.
a bad sensor. Okay, it's a bad sensor, but it's not, again, it preempts.
Yep. This is the one where, you really don't want a false alarm.
Right.
This is the fire's major. This, I think, is paramount.
Right.
Because it is an active shooter. And if you have something that can give the notifications to everybody in the building first,
Right.
that's what you need. And this is a great notification system at the end of the day of, if your loved ones are in that building, who do you want to get the notifications? Now, if you can speed it up, like this will do, as soon as the shot's off, it's notifying.
It's notifying.
So whether it's teachers, students, workers, administration, anybody in the building, they're getting a notification just as fast as the police are dispatched. And now you're dispatching 55 seconds faster
Right.
than what the typical response is, and getting the police and everybody to that situation faster.
Right.
Because if you dispatch at 3 minutes, how long does it take after 3 minutes to get there?
Right. You're talking, could be up to 5 more minutes before somebody gets there.
And now you're saying that, we're getting
And now
in.
you're 8 minutes into what's going on.
You're 8 minutes into a
lot can go
situation.
on in 8 minutes.
Especially with with the statistics that have been, spoken of. And, that's what I was talking about with an he's a retired FBI agent. And he's like, the first thing you need to do in a situation like this is notify everybody in the building.
Yep.
That should be the first thing. Then your seconds, local police departments, or if they do have on-site security, it should be going out to them as well. And a lot of schools do have that.
Right.
But you need everybody.
Right.
You need everybody, unfortunately, to drop it or drop what they're doing and respond as quickly as possible. But that's one of these things where I really hope we see a big change and a big stride in getting this out there to
Right.
more people.
Well, again, I think these type systems too are on that forefront, just like the drone technology. It's going to come as time comes. And I'm not saying that there's going to be more shootings that are going to prompt it, but as people look at new buildings and new systems, and you go, okay, well, how do we protect our people? Because a month ago there was a incident at no matter what the incident is, there was an incident at this facility similar to ours. How do we protect my people? And that's one thing as administrators of places, they have to look at that realistically, but also what can we do to give, if we are going to be, somebody's going to try to come and attack us from the outside, or if it's an internal person that levies an attack on another coworker, how can we slow the process so that people are safe? People have time to react, fight or flight, because if you don't put in any measures that will slow them down, the assailant, then it's just free reign. And I think that's like you could notify people right away, but they're not going to have a chance. They have to have a chance too to kind of protect themselves.
Yep. And he was also saying, he says, you don't really know. He's like, in my career, he says, I spent 10 years in the active shooting situation, area, and he's like, you don't know how many shootings go unreported.
Right.
That we go through and investigate, and how many of them were second shift on third shift.
Right.
Somebody had a disturbance and didn't make the news, but there was an active shooting situation.
Right.
And in a job or work or home, or not even home, but everywhere, you should be able to be protected from an incident.
Absolutely.
And your administration should want to look into the technology and not just think that, oh, well, if we put this in, we're expecting this to happen.
Right.
You're not expecting this to happen. It can happen anywhere at any time, at any facility.
Right.
You have the ability to do it.
Right.
It's not like we're putting in, like a 100 by 100 sensor.
Right.
It's
You
small.
don't have to modify the building to get this thing in there. Yeah, that's again, I think truly the the administrations of businesses, the people that own businesses, whatever, they're the ones that ultimately have to look at these things and say, you know what, we have an interest in protecting our people from outside incidents and from inside incidents, and what's the best way to do it.
Yep. And I was talking to an IT administrator the other day, and we were going over our system. We had an issue with Comcast, of course, and our systems on our side, their systems on their side, and he said I had a box on top of the rack. It's our cellular communicator for SDS, and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "That's our shooter detection system. That's what's running the sensors in the ceiling." And he says, "I didn't even know that they were in this building." And I said, "That's a really good thing, because number one, they're not out in the open, they're not in your face, but it was something that the team in charge and the person in charge made the decision and said, we want to have this. We want to make sure that we're protected." We went through, we redid the entire alarm system, we made sure everything's working. Which, had been failing. And you're like, in a situation where there's a holdup, or there's a panic, or there's another one of those issues, you have to have your components working. You have to have the backups. You got to have the redundancies available. And he was like, I didn't even know they were here. And I actually walked him through, and I showed him, and I said, we really care about security at this facility. It's major to us, cater to a lot of people on a weekly basis. Could it happen? Any dispute could happen.
Right.
You could have a dispute over a check or a dollar or anything like that, and you have people. They're people. They're not robots, and you should be willing to spend to protect them.
Right.
And that's why we love this system. We love what everybody's doing, and they're there.
Right.
They help you as law enforcement. They help the people inside the building who are there. They help all the other first responders, and just getting that information. I mean, you've never had information so fast.
Right.
As soon as that camera takes the picture,
It's
over.
pushing it out. Yeah.
you know, and that's the picture that goes on the news, the trial, the next thing, and that is, oh, we had this.
Right.
You can't tell me this wasn't you.
Right.
And that's what I don't think we see a lot of.
Right.
You see them walking through, but you don't see
Yeah.
what has just transpired.
Right.
So I think that's a really, big thing, especially now moving with AI and all the other detections that we're getting, just pairing that one big full circle inside of a company
Right.
is important. But the security in future public spaces now, and what are, when designing now, what do you think should be designed around in a new facility?
Well, I think when, again, in my experience, and even some, guess I'm just trying to think of the best way to say it. Like that's a component in the planning stage. Like I think you have to have that mindset right out from the gate of if you're going to build a new facility, okay, what do we need to do to secure the facility? And we got to think of that up front, because there's some things that you can do when it comes to limiting access to buildings. There are some things you can do when it comes to glass. Glass is pretty in buildings, but it's not always. When I talk about, slowing down the threat of something incoming from the outside, so you can have a secure building, but if all it takes is somebody to throw a crowbar through the window and break into your facility, well, that you're not slowing them down. Like you need to slow them down, make them, have to drive a car through the front of it. If it's may not be bulletproof glass, but it may be the glazed bullet resistant, where it's harder to just break that window, shatter it, and go right in, because you see, too many times you see it on the news, like, oh, they broke into the local gas station. Well, they just popped the window and went right in through the glass.
Mm-hmm. Through a rock.
Right, or through a rock right through the window. Went right through the glass, and they climbed through the glass, and you're like, well, that didn't stop anything. So when you're designing a building, I think you need to think of, what kind of security features do we want to put in, but the layers. So slow them down. What are we going to then do when we limit the access to the building inside? And even if you have different work areas, what can we do to secure that area from another area if there's an incident in the warehouse versus an incident in the office? Well, if there's an incident in the office, it's one door that needs to get locked down, and we're secured the rest of the building, versus the warehouse. Maybe it's a large warehouse and there's multiple exterior doors that need to be secured. I think if you start that in the very beginning, it will hone your mindset to how we need to build, and appropriately build, buildings for that type of element. I don't think we live in a world that's under attack, but you have to think like, how are we going to secure things at night? Do we need to put a fence? Okay, well, then that means we need to do this, this, and this. Do we need, again, security cameras, like we were talking, having them run? What type of security cameras? Oh, we want to do pan-tilt zoom or patrol cameras, or
Yep.
automated patrol cameras, or motion detect cameras out on the property. So a lot of that, when you are building a new building, or even modifying, going into a structure and going, okay, we're going to use this space. Well, this is what we're going to be doing, and this is, I think that security planning has to be on the forefront, just so that you can properly, build out your business.
Wire it. get everything to where it needs to be. And we are in that, mindset of, before in the 90s and 2000s, it was data.
Right.
And where are computers going to be? Where are our servers? Where is that going to be?
Right.
And now we have to plan for that era. We have to now plan for our security era
Right.
and access control that brings us back. That's, I think, one of the most crucial pieces of a building that a lot of people will look at the costs and kind of write it off.
Right.
But how many times have you given a key to somebody and you've fired them, gotten rid of them, had access to something that they shouldn't have?
Right.
That's a major problem.
Yeah.
And now we look at access control and we look at, all the tracking that goes inside. And you're right, you have to be that plan. As soon as that plan's designed,
Right.
you have to go to your security contractor and really start planning. I mean, because how many wires have to be run?
Right.
I mean, you want to run a system that big. I mean, doors are a huge thing. It's a lot of conductors of wires, a lot of wires. Everybody's loved, we live in a wireless society. We don't. We
No, we
really
don't.
don't.
Yeah.
There's so many wires to make your backbone of wireless work.
Right.
And that's, we have to look at the plan and be like, all right, that door leads to there. Well, you have to do them. Because if you're going to go into a lockdown, you also have to work with your customer to learn what is your definition of a lockdown.
Right.
And I think it's something that we don't discuss enough. And I've heard it from multiple, people of, well, nobody in, everybody out.
Right.
I'm like, well, that's not, our version of a lockdown was nobody in, nobody out.
Right.
Where you are is where that door is locked, is where you're staying until the lockdown's off.
Right.
And yes, there could be people or there could be an assailant or there could be a problem, but like, what is your definition when it comes to a lockdown? And that's really important. That has to be discussed when you're planning to say, if we're going to do a full lockdown, that means we're going to lock down.
Right.
These people are in this office, they're staying. These garages are locked, they're staying. The warehouses, every department is sealed away so that you can now contain in the event of an incident.
Whatever the incident is.
What is happening.
Right.
And that's, another good thing that I think we really discuss. But planning is key. New buildings are especially easier now because now we know where everything's going.
Right.
Instead of, how much old wires in the ceiling, how much are we ripping out?
Right.
How much are we fighting to get these systems in place when that costs more?
Right.
It costs more than just like, okay, rip it. Just
Right.
take it out. You know that the cable from 1999.
Yeah, from 20 years ago is probably not going to work, or you're going to have problems with it, in the next year or two.
Yep.
My theory has always been, if you're going to do something, do it right, the whole way through. Don't, when you're mix matching things, you are only asking for problems.
Yep. And make it neat so that it can be added upon.
Right.
Whether it's rings in the ceiling that are really easy to pull through and not just laying on a drop ceiling because, everybody pushes the tiles.
Yep.
You don't know what you're hitting and everything's an issue up there. So it's like, make it so that it's user serviceable and that we can add to it because there's going to be new features.
Sure. There'll be new features, or there may be, well, we want another door done. Okay. And that's, again, that's different though than if you were putting two different systems together, like still trying to use an old system and let's add to it with this new system. I always recommend you try to keep it to one
ease of use.
Ease of use, yeah.
Because as soon as that's why we sell a combined solution.
Right.
Like if you want these cameras, we're going to sell this system because we want the integration to say, when that door is swiped, we want a picture of it. Who came through the door?
Right.
Because you can say, oh, that was your badge. That may not have been you.
May not have been that person. Right.
So that's, really tying those systems together to give us that ability and leveraging what technology we have. Years ago, couldn't do it. Now it's, we look at PDK, we look at Alarm.com, we look at even Ubiquity, who I think is going to be the front runner in this security industry. I mean, we look at them, we look at their power, we look at their cameras, and we're like, this is incredible.
Right.
Because we're offering solutions now that I've never seen.
Right.
And yeah, you got to pay for, them, but they're no monthly cost.
Right.
And they're just AI is taking over everything and their stuff's incredible. That's why we started doing their door access control.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
100% PoE powered. So PoE mag, everything's done with the single controller. It's got a beautiful face on it. It does all your Apple Wallet now. It also has face recognition now. Then you just put your face right up, and now it's
And
it's across multiple facilities. So I really think it's neat. All your cameras now can do it.
okay,
All your listing, they have all your blacklists now on the web page.
right,
But their camera, it's funny because, like I said, we sell Hanwha, we sell Alarm.com, we sell Uniview, and like we love Uniview. We sell about 1,500 cameras from them a year. Love them.
right.
But then you look at an interface like Unifies and your multi-location management, how easy it is, where your NVRs are, your stacking, and you're like, why has nobody figured it out?
Yeah, why has nobody done this?
Why has nobody made it like, oh, we want to put a monitor there and see the cameras? Well, before, like, you could really only be 50 feet. You have to get the HDMI cable. It doesn't fit through the holes. Everything's bigger. And now it's like, PoE, we'll put a viewport in, HDMI cable, whatever cameras you want.
And up and running.
Up and running. And you're like, they're making it easy.
Yeah.
That's why they say simplify IT, because it's simplifying the power that we have to really do things. So, overall, it's incredible to see.
Yeah.
We're moving so far in this industry.
Right.
But I want to turn it over to you to say, do you have any other thoughts on, anything that people can be doing better, whether it's home security or business security, to close us out here?
Well, again, I don't think there's anything that, as these new technologies come online, I think you have to, everybody tests them, see what the best products are that, and everything has a little different twist to it. Just like you were talking about these Ubiquity cameras and Unify cameras, everything's a little bit different, but you have to see what is going to work for your industry and your application. I think you do your homework. You talk to guys like yourself. Again, people come to me. I am kind of have a little multifaceted where I have a background in law enforcement. I have a background in emergency services. I have a computer background going back almost 30 years. I always say, like, test it. Let's see if it works. And if it does, again, find yourself a guy like you who, hey, I'll make it work, but we're going to do it the right way. Because you could easily throw up some of these pieces of equipment and it not really work because something's not done right. You need to also follow that with good IT people that go, okay, this is the way we need to connect this and get you online and get this thing to work. And that's what also makes those products successful then, because too many times I see, good equipment, but bad work.
Yep. It's a multifaceted prism.
Yeah. Or I hear people say, I hate this system. And I think to myself, well, this is a good system. Something's wrong, with what's going on here, because this isn't what it should be doing.
The implementation.
Right.
When you have somebody who is looking for simple.
Right.
There is no true simple system out there. They are all quirky in their own way, shape, or form, but, you have to do what you said is the testing, but there's so many facets from the install. And, with the programs that we have, you can do it yourself. But now the programs that we're, using and putting in is like we're providing our customers what that camera is going to see on their location, which I've never seen anything like it. Somebody showed it to me, and they're like, oh, if you're doing like a facility, it uses Google Earth.
Right.
So it uses our street view. So now I can physically see how far the camera zooms in, what it's going to see, and now my customers are physically seeing that's what I'm going to see.
That's what I'm going to see.
Instead of providing them a map saying, you could... Maybe. Yeah. Now we're giving you...
You should catch this area.
Yeah. If it's inside, I can't help you.
Right.
Okay, but on the outside, pretty much if Google's covered it, which Google has covered, 99% of the earth at this point, we can see it. Yeah. So really utilizing, your professionals to do it, your consultants to do it, just anybody, so you can have a really robust system.
Right.
And with the new technology, you want somebody who's tested it, who's installed it, who's put it in. You don't want to do it because at the end of the day, it's a major liability.
Right.
If it doesn't work.
If it doesn't work. Right.
If your door doesn't open in a fire or your other systems do not operate. Right. So overall, I mean, it's really it's an incredible industry, and we're seeing it change. You're seeing it on your side. We're seeing it on ours. We're the change.
Right.
You guys experience our change, so I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for
I
having
think
me,
this
Harry.
was great, and
Okay.
you're just sharing some of your ideas and things, you know, that we can help people, and going over the major security tasks of securing your network, securing your home, what cameras you can use, and just
Right.
really a solid overview of that. So that was another great episode on the Green Room. Like, subscribe, and comment below, and we'll see you on the next one. We got a really good one coming up next with our representatives from Shooter Detection Systems on the enterprise side, so stay tuned for that one.